Alexander the Great, the man who conquered the world. The Persian army stretched for kilometers, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, war chariots, elite guards of the greatest empire on earth, and in front of them stood a man barely 25 years old, outnumbered, outmatched, facing the most powerful king of the ancient world. But before the sun would set, the Persian Empire would begin to collapse, and the name of that young king would echo across history: Alexander of Macedon, Alexander the Great. But Alexander was not born a legend. In the ancient world, where empires collapsed under the weight of their own ambitions, and vast parts of the map were still unknown, a man was born who would change history forever. A man whose name would be spoken with respect, fear, admiration, and legend for more than 2,000 years. Alexander of Macedon, Alexander the Great, a child of destiny, a leader obsessed with glory, a strategist unlike any the world had ever seen, a man who believed the world had no limits. But his story is not just the story of a conqueror, it is the story of a boy raised on myths and legends, educated by the greatest philosopher of the ancient world, and encouraged by his own mother to believe that the blood of the gods flowed through his veins. And eventually, he believed it. It is the story of a young man who, at just 20 years old, inherited a fragile kingdom surrounded by enemies, and in less than 12 years conquered more territory than any ruler before him. It is the story of a man who dreamed of uniting East and West into a single world, and at the same time, the story of an ambition so powerful that it consumed him completely. Today, in this episode, we step into the life of Alexander the Great. We will discover how he was shaped, how he conquered, how he built, how he fell, and how he became immortal in history. This is the epic of Alexander the Great, the birth of a legend. Alexander was born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedonia. According to ancient legends, the night he was born was marked by a strange event. The great temple of Artemis in Ephesus burned to the ground. Many interpreted this as an omen. When a great temple falls, a great man rises. Alexander's mother, Olympias, was an enigmatic figure. She came from the Molossian royal house of Epirus and was deeply connected to the mysterious cult of Dionysus. Her rituals involved sacred ceremonies and even snakes. To many Greeks of the time, she was both fascinating and frightening. From an early age, Olympias filled Alexander's mind with powerful ideas. She told him that he was not merely the son of King Philip, but a descendant of Achilles, and perhaps even the son of Zeus himself. "You are chosen," she would tell him. His father, Philip II of Macedon, was the complete opposite, a pragmatic man, a brilliant military commander, a cold and calculating diplomat. Philip transformed Macedonia from a minor kingdom into the most powerful military force in Greece. He created the famous Macedonian phalanx, long spears, disciplined formations, precise battlefield tactics. This was the machine that would one day carry Alexander across continents. And so Alexander grew up between two powerful worlds, one filled with myths, destiny, and divine blood, the other built on discipline, strategy, and military power. The first signs of greatness. Even as a child, Alexander showed an intense and fiery personality. He feared nothing. He wanted everything, and he wanted it fast. Stories about his childhood are numerous. One of the most famous describes a moment when Alexander was only 7 years old. A messenger arrived at the Macedonian court from Asia and showed the court a map of the known world. Alexander asked a simple question: who rules all of this? The messenger replied, "Here the Persians rule, further west the Greeks, to the north the tribes. No one rules it all." According to the story, the young boy replied calmly, "Then one day, I will." It may be legend, but the life Alexander later lived suggests those words were not impossible. The story of Bucephalus. One of the most famous episodes from Alexander's youth involves a magnificent but uncontrollable horse. A horse trader had brought the animal to King Philip's court. The horse was strong, powerful, and beautiful, but impossible to tame. Soldiers tried to mount it. The horse kicked, bit, reared up, and refused every rider. Philip finally declared the horse useless. Alexander stepped forward. "The horse is not mad," he said. "You simply don't understand him." The court laughed, but the young prince approached slowly. He had noticed something the others had ignored. The horse was terrified of its own shadow. Alexander turned the horse toward the sun so the shadow disappeared behind it. Then he spoke softly, calming the animal. Moments later, he mounted the horse and rode it at full speed. The crowd stood in stunned silence. Alexander returned in perfect control. Philip II, amazed and emotional, said something that would become famous. "My son, seek a kingdom equal to yourself. Macedonia is too small for you." The horse's name was Bucephalus, and he would carry Alexander across much of the known world. The mind of a king. Aristotle. When Alexander turned 13, Philip decided his son needed more than military training. He needed an intellectual mentor. So Philip hired one of the greatest philosophers in history, Aristotle. Philip even gave Aristotle an entire town, Mysa, where Alexander and several young noblemen would study. These young students would later become Alexander's generals. There they studied philosophy, ethics, politics, medicine, biology, astronomy, geography, literature. Aristotle did not simply teach knowledge. He shaped Alexander's worldview. He taught him that the world was vast, that power did not come only from the sword, but also from understanding. It was here that Alexander developed his curiosity about distant lands, and it was here that he developed respect for foreign cultures. Aristotle also gave him a special copy of Homer's Iliad. Alexander carried it everywhere, even during his campaigns in Asia. To him, Achilles was the ultimate warrior, and Alexander wanted to surpass him. The assassination of Philip, the year 336 BC, changed everything. Philip II of Macedon, the man who had built Macedonia into a superpower, was assassinated. The murder took place during the wedding celebration of his daughter. A man named Pausanias stabbed the king as he entered the theater. He attempted to escape, but was immediately killed. The true reason for the assassination remains a mystery even today. Some historians believe it was personal revenge. Others suspect Macedonian nobles. Some even speculate that Olympias, Alexander's own mother, may have played a role. But one thing was certain: Philip was dead, and the throne was suddenly vulnerable. Macedonia was surrounded by enemies. Greek cities wanted independence. Thracian tribes were preparing revolts. Persia watched closely for weakness. Macedonian nobles were divided, and Alexander was only 20 years old. The young king. Despite his youth, Alexander acted with shocking decisiveness. His first move was to secure the loyalty of the army. He addressed the soldiers directly. Standing before the Macedonian phalanx, he said, "I do not ask for your loyalty because I am the son of Philip, but because I will fight beside you in the front line." The soldiers erupted in cheers. The army had chosen its king. Next, Alexander moved quickly against internal threats. Some nobles who opposed him were eliminated. Others pledged loyalty. Olympias used her influence to strengthen his position. Within weeks, the throne that had seemed unstable was firmly in Alexander's hands. But the real test was about to begin. The destruction of Thebes. When the Greek cities heard that Philip had died, many believed Macedonia would collapse. Athens and Thebes were the first to prepare rebellion. But Alexander reacted with extraordinary speed. He marched nearly 500 kilometers in just 14 days. Before the Greeks could even organize their forces, Alexander was already outside the walls of Thebes. The battle that followed was brutal. To send a message to the entire Greek world, Alexander ordered something shocking. The complete destruction of Thebes. The city was wiped from the map. 6,000 people were killed. 30,000 were sold into slavery. The message was clear. No Greek city would dare challenge him again. Athens, terrified, quickly sent envoys to ask for peace. Alexander accepted because he understood something important. A conqueror must know when to destroy and when to forgive.